Hi everyone, this is Naveena from the Department of CSC Cybersecurity in the Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. And today I want to make the discussion regarding the introduction to computer networks under the subject of computer networks. And in this chapter and in this concept, we need to discuss related to the networks and the network types, internet history, and the standards and the administration and the communication between the two types of devices, how it can be happen, we need to discuss in each and every aspect. First of all, in this one, at the end of this video, the students can able to learn the communication between the two types of networks and how the networks can able to communicate between the two devices and the network criteria, the type of networks, switching, and regarding the three types of LANs and the routers. So coming to that, the first outline and the introduction part of a computer networks is nothing but introduction and regarding the networks, network types, internet history, standards and administration. And coming to the introduction part of computer networks, a data communication, it is nothing but communication between the two devices. And computer networks, if you can define in second way, it is nothing but the interconnection between the two devices. Or if you can define in a second way, it is nothing but the exchange of data between the two devices via form the transmission media such as by means of a ring or wire, a cable or a air. So the effectiveness of a data communication system depends on four fundamental characteristics. Those are the delivery, accuracy, timeline and the jitter. And the data communication system consisting of mainly the five components and which should be mentioned below. The first one is the message, and second one is the sender, the third one is the receiver, the fourth one is the transmission media, fifth one is the protocol. So suppose the concept of the networks is mainly based on the message passing. A message passing by means of either by means of a data packets or data frames or a data bits, and consisting of the source and the destination. And in the another language, what we can call it as the first one is the sender, second one is the receiver. So if you can see the example of one sender and the one receiver, simply a simple message can able to transmit or passing over from one sender to the another receiver. So coming to the data representation in the computer networks, the information today it may varies or coming in the form of a different form such as text, numbers, images and the audio. And the data flow in the networks we can able to identify or elaborated in three forms. That is nothing but the simplex way of data flow, half duplex and the full duplex. So if you can take the example or illustrate the given example which will be a part of the side of the data flow, simplex means it is nothing but the unidirectional flow of passing the communication between one sender to the another receiver. That means half duplex means if you can say the example of suppose A can sends the message and B can receives the message. And again A receives the message, B can sends the message. This is the two-way directional of the data representation or message passing between the two types of networks. And coming to the full duplex means it is nothing but the bidirectional flow. Definitely a source and a destination or a sender or receiver, a sender can able to transmit or passes the data or the way of communication between the two types of devices we can identify here. A sender can able to send the data from one side. Definitely that receiver can able to receive and gives the acknowledgement to the sender again. This is the form of full duplex and we have to see in up to that simplex and half duplex and the full duplex. And coming to that, the most introduction part of our computer networks is nothing but the definition of a computer. We can define it in three ways. The first one is a network is an interconnection of a set of devices capable of communication and can be holding a host, what we can call it as in a second word an end system, and such as what it meant say, it is a large computer either by means of a desktop or a laptop or a workstation or a cellular phone or security system. And we can define the networks in a second way. It is a connecting device such as a router which connects to the one network to the another networks, and a switch which can able to connect devices with together, and a modem which changes the form of data as so on when it receives the data. So coming to the third point of a definition of a networks, these devices in a network are connected using the two types of ways, whether the first one is the wired, second one is the wireless transmission media by means of a cable or air. So coming to that, the third element of a networks under the network definition, and we have to identify the network criteria. The main criteria of a networks are nothing but those are three. The first one is the performance, second one is the reliability, third one is the security. Coming to the criteria one of a network criteria, the performance, it can be measured and issued in many ways, including the transit time and response time. The transit time is, if you can calculate it, is the amount of time required for the message to travel from one device to the another device. Coming to the response time is the elapsed time between the inquiry and a response, nothing but the receiving and the sending of a one message, what we can call it as a response time. So coming to the second criteria of a networks, the second one is the reliability. In addition to accuracy of the delivery, and the network reliability is measured by means of a frequency of several failures, and it takes the several times to link to cover from a failure and the network's robustness. And coming to the third criteria of a network security issues, including the protecting data from the unauthorized access. So coming to the third elements of the introduction part of the computer networks, that is nothing but called the physical layers, and in these physical layers, the type of connections we made to see the two types of possible connections here we made to identify. That is nothing but the point-to-point and multi-point. Here, in the first point-to-point communication is nothing but it provides a dedicated link between the two types of devices. So coming to the multi-point, it is also called as multiple drop-off connection, which more than two specific devices share a single connecting link. Suppose if we can take the undergo through the below example, or we have to see in the below example. Suppose a point-to-point consisting of simply the two devices which will be linked in a single line. And coming to the two type of multi-point, so here the one type of one point will be fixed at the time of, suppose if you can assume that it is A, and here the multi-point means the link will be there, it will be connected with more type of devices, 3 or more type of devices. That is the physical structure of a network. So coming to the physical topology, the term topology refers to the way in which a network is laid out physically. Basically, there are 4 topologies which might be possible or studied in our networks. Those are nothing called as mesh type of technology, star type of technology, bus type of technology, and ring type of technology. And coming to the first type of technology, that is nothing but the mesh topology. In a mesh topology, every device has a dedicated point-to-point link to every other device. Suppose if you can see the example of a mesh topology, that it will be consisting of n type of connections will be there, but connected with 10 type of links. See the example what I have discussed in a mesh topology, it will be resembling by means of a mesh only. N type of nodes will be there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, connecting with 10 links. This is the one methodology or a mode of example which we can illustrate related to the mesh topology. Coming to the star topology, here we have to discuss or dedicated means each device has a dedicated point-to-point link, only a central controller. That central controller, what we can call it as a hub. Here we have to identify many terminals or many devices need to attach or associated with a one central controller, what we can call it as a hub. These devices are not directly linked with one another, but they may able to connect with the central controller, what we can call it as a hub. And coming to the third one is a bus topology under the networks. A bus topology is a multi-point. One long cable acts as a backbone to link all the devices in a network. So coming to the nodes, here we can identify the nodes are connected to the bus cable by drop lines and taps. A drop line is if you can define a drop line, what do you mean by drop line means? A drop line is a connection running between the devices. If you can take the example of which will be given below, the two cables we have to identify, the cable 1 and the cable 2, and through that cable line and 3 drop lines will be there. In between that, the nodes are connected with the taps associated with the drop line. A drop line is nothing but, if you can mention, it is nothing but a connection running between the devices which will be connected from the cable 1 to the cable 2. And associatedly, a tap is also, we may identify the tap. It is nothing but the connector that either splices into the main cable or punctures the sheathing of a cable to create a contact with a metallic core. And coming to the fourth one of a network's ring topology. In a ring topology, each device has a dedicated point-to-point connection we have to identify. So, a signal is passed along the ring in one direction from device to device. See, suppose if you can illustrate the diagram, what we have illustrated by you, there are many type of repeaters will be there. The first one, second, third, fourth, 5, 6. So, these are all connected. The point communication we have to identify with only the two devices on either side. So, a signal is passed through the one system by means of a second, by means of a 3, by means of a 4, by means of a 5, by means of a 6, along throughout the ring in one direction from one device to the another device until it reaches the destination. So, coming to the next topic under the part of a computer networks introduction or introduction to computer networks, those are the network types. The network consisting of different types of networks will be there. There are mainly 3 types of networks we'll follow. The first one is the local area network, which will be illustrated by means of a LAN. And second one is the WAN, wide area network. And the third one is the MAN, metropolitan area network. So, under the network types, different types of networks we encounter in the world today. And for the first one is the local area network. If you want to discuss the local area network, is usually privately owned and connects some hosts in a single office. Suppose if you can take the example of a LAN, our laboratories, our computer laboratories, so they are having many systems which will be elaborated or associated with one another by means of a LAN type of works. This is one of the example of our computer labs, whatever it may be called. So these are all the examples for the local area network. And depending on the needs of an organization, a LAN can be as simple as 2 PCs and a printer like in a home office, or it can extend it throughout the company and included many video devices. And each host in a LAN has an identifier, an address, and uniquely defines the host in the LAN. So, if you can take the example of a types of networks, see here, I want to illustrate one example, LAN with a common cable. So, here we have to identify one LAN connection, that what we can call it as a local area network, which will be connected by means of a n number of hosts, the host 1 to host 8. So, this is one of the path of communication under the types of networks. So, coming to the second one, a LAN which a switch cable. A switch can be established and associated with n number of hosts. That means the host 1, 2 and 3, 4. The 4 terminals, those will be attached by means of a upper side, and the remaining 4s, they will be associated or attached by means of a lower level. So, these are the 2 types of networks which I want to illustrate in the given example. So, coming to the second type of networks, wide area network. A wide area network is an interconnection of devices capable of communication. So, if you can take the example of a wide area network, our call is consisting of the 3 types of blocks. The one is the Abdul Kalam and Barkwaza block. The network connection, the communication between the 2 types of block, from one block to the another block, what we can call it as a wide area network. This is nothing but the simple example what I want to illustrate under the part of introduction to the computers. And a LAN is normally limited in size, spanning an office or a building or a campus. But coming to the consideration point of a WAN, it is a wider growth consisting of a geographical span and spreading within the town or a state or a country or even the world. And a LAN can able to interconnect with a host, but a WAN interconnects connecting devices such as by means of a switches, routers, switched networks or modems. So, coming to the network types, we need to discuss the 2 types of network types. What those 2 are called as a point-to-point WAN and switch WAN. So, coming to the point-to-point WAN, it is a network which connects 2 communicating devices through a transmission media. That transmission media may be either by means of a cable or air. So, coming to the second point of a network types, it is nothing but the switched WAN. A switched WAN is also nothing but a network with more than two ends. That means a switched WAN is a combination of several point-to-point WANs that are connected by several number of switches. Suppose if you can take the example of a one network and second one is the another network. Suppose this is the A, this is the B, which will be having the two ends. A switched WAN is a combination of several points. Point-to-point connection we may be identified while we are discussed about that switched WAN. And coming to that, the main and vital element which will be under the part of the introduction to the computer networks is nothing but the internet work or internet. So today it will be most rapid and fast growing. The people, the society, they may be addicted and by means of internet only. So today the network types, it is very rare to see a LAN or WAN in isolation. They are connected with one to each other. When two or more networks we need to connect means that what we can call it as that network, what we can call it as a internet work or internet. So suppose if you can take the example here, I want to illustrate with one particular example. The one LAN, it will be connected. This is the office A and this is the B office, and in that one, that what we have given one name, West Coast office, and second one is the East Coast office. And here the three types of systems may be attached with one router, and the second router may be attached with three types of devices with end-to-end point of communication, point-to-point communication of a WAN, not by means of a LAN. Point-to-point communication of WAN we may have identified between the two routers of Office 1 and the Office 2. This is one of the illustration and best example of while we are studying about the internet work. And coming to the internet history, and we need to make a review of the brief history with regarding to the internet and its technologies. This brief history makes it clear how the internet has evolved from a private network to a global one or more less than 40 years. And in the early stages of 1960s, there were some communication networks may be identified, such as the telegraph and the telephone only we may heard. But nowadays, there are many type of networks which are suitable for constant rate of communication at the time, which means that after a connection was made between two users, the encoding message, telegraphy or voice, the telephony could be exchanged. And the first, under the main sector of internet history, the first history is nothing but the first network is ARPANET. And it is the developed and created by means of in the middle ages of 1960. The mainframe computers in research organizations were standalone devices. Computers from different manufacturers were unable to communicate with one another. And at the early ages of 1967, an Association for Computing Machinery, ACM meeting, presented its ideas for the ARPANET, what we can elaborate or illustrated Advanced Research Projects Agents Network, a small network of computer connected networks. So coming to the birth of the internet, and in the early ages of 1972, Windsurf and Bob Kahn, both of whom were part of the core ARPANET group, collaborated on what they called the Interneting Project, TCP/IP. So they may identified or created many type of protocols which are especially meant for the communication sake, end-to-end delivery of the data or message passing. So the first one is the Milnet. In the early of 1983, the ARPANET splits into two networks, which is very much essential for the sake of a defense protocol or defense sector. What we can call it as a military network, what we can call Milnet. For military users and defense purpose only, they are especially creating and invented this Milnet. And coming to the second one is the CSNet. Another milestone and in internet history was the creation of CSNet in 1981. What we can call the abbreviation of a CSNet is Computer Science Network, was a network sponsored by the National Science Foundation, NSF. And coming to the third network under the internet history, what we can call NSFNET. With the success of CSNet and Milnet, the NSF in the early stages of 1986 sponsored the National Science Foundation Network, NSFNET. which will be acting as a backbone that connected 5 supercomputers at a time throughout the United States. So coming to the last but least one, high-speed internet backbone called Advanced Network Services, what we can call abbreviated in a short form ANSNET. And coming to that, according to our discussion later created by the internet history, there are mainly 3 types of internet applications that society or people they might be using vigorously. What are those? The first one is the World Wide Web, and it is the emergency of the World Wide Web was invented at CERN by Tim Berners-Lee. This invention has added the commercial applications to the existing internet history. And coming to the second application of internet history, multimedia. It is very elaborately and vigorously using by means of several cinema and image processing applications. These are developments in the multimedia applications such as voice over OP, telephony, video over IP, Skype, view sharing by means of a YouTube, and television by means of a over IP, PP Live has increased the number of users and the amount of time spending each user on the network. So coming to the third application, which is very much essential for the internet history, is nothing but the peer-to-peer applications. That means it is also meant for new area of communication with a lot of potential. And I want to discuss regarding some internet standards and network standards and administration. An internet standard is a thoroughly tested specification which is meant for useful to and adhere to and by those who work with the internet. It is a formalized regulation that must be followed. There is a strict procedure by which the specification attains internet standard status. A specification begins by means of an internet draft. So if you can define the internet draft is a working document or a work in a progress with no official status and 6 months of lifetime. Upon recommendation from the internet authorities, a draft may be published as a request for comment RFC. Each RFC is edited, assigned a number and made available to all interested parties. RFCs go through maturity levels and are categorized according to their requirement level. Here we have to illustrate some example. One is the experimental, second one is the internet draft, third one is the informational. And coming to the internet standards, the first one is the draft standard, second one is the proposed standard. So here we have to identify the internet draft which will be having one number. And coming to the next application of internet administration, and we want to discuss regarding the research domain and has evolved under the internet standards, gained a broader use base with significant commercial activity, and various groups which can coordinate internet issues have guided this growth and development, and which gives the addresses, email addresses and telephone numbers for some of these groups. It shows the general organization of email addresses and telephone numbers for some of these groups. Below figure shows how the general organization of internet administration will works are follows. So this is the main schematic way or pictorial diagram or hierarchy of a one internet administration I want to elaborate or illustrate it under the internet administration. The first one is the ISOC, second one is the IAB, and it will be associated here. We have to identify the 2 types of protocols. Will be the first one is meant for researching, second one is the engineering. So especially it is meant for the 2 types of ISOC and IAB. We have a need to define it. The ISOC is nothing but what we can call or elaborated or abbreviated the Internet Society. It is an international non-profit organization which will be formed in 1992 to provide the support for the internet and internet standard process. So coming to the next point we want to illustrate regarding the ISOC. It accomplishes this through maintaining and supporting the other internet administrative bodies such as IAB, IETF, IRTF and IANA. And coming to the third application of a ISOC, which can promote the research and other scholarly activities relating to the internet. So this is the applications what we have discussed regarding the ISOC, which is the elaborated or defined by means of a internet society. Coming to the IAB, the Internet Architecture Board, IAB, is the technical advisor to the ISOC. The main purpose of creating the IAB are to oversee the continuing development of the TCP/IP protocol suite and to several in a technical advisory capacity to research members of the internet community. And coming to the last application of a IAB, it accomplishes this through by means of two primary components, which one is the Internet Engineering Task Force IETF and the Internet Research Task Force IRTF. So in the before example and in the before slide, what we can discuss, the two types of standards will be there, IRTF and the IETF. One is meant for the researching, one is meant for the engineering. Both are attached or associated with the IAB, and IAB, it will be acts as a technical advisor for the ISOC. And coming to the some of the protocols which will be included under the internet administration, the next one is the JETF, and it is a form of working groups managed by the Internet Steering Group, IESG. And IETF is responsible. What are the responsible and the tasks of IETF I want to discuss? It is nothing but the responsible for identifying operational problems and proposing solutions to these problems. And IETF also develops and reviews some specification standards intended with related to the internet standards. So coming to that, and the IETF working groups are collected into areas, and each area concentrates on a specific topic. Currently, 9 areas which we have to identified or defined. These areas include applications, protocoling, routing, network management, and next generation IPNG and security. So coming to the last one, JRTF, which we can abbreviate it, the Internet Research Task Force is a form of working groups managed by the Internet Research Steering Group, IRSG. The IRTF focuses, which can able to focus on a long time research topics related to the internet protocols, applications, architecture and the technology. Thank you for watching. Keep watching on Computer Networks by Naveena.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.